Could Jerry Reinsdorf's days as the controlling owner of the Chicago White Sox be winding down? Let's discuss the weekend news that dropped regarding the team's potential next majority owner on today's episode of Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the Fansided Network. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Well, fans who've been chanting sell the team may soon be getting their wish. The Athletic's John Greenberg had a report over the weekend discussing a baller move Jerry Reinsdorf made that may have set up a succession plan once Jerry passes away, or even sooner. Then the White Sox played two exhibition games over the weekend. Let's discuss some takeaways from the early spring training games. And finally, there is an injury to a key bullpen arm, and I want to discuss how it would impact the relief group on opening day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so a few months back, I did an episode where the ideal people to buy the White Sox, Justin and Matt Ishbia, were going to buy the Minnesota Twins. Even though they own a minority stake in the Sox, as that eventually came out after their pursuit of the Twins was reported, and they were speculated to be interested as a buyer once it was floated that Jerry Reinsdorf was thinking about selling the team. Remember, I did those episodes back in October when, the news came out that Dave Stewart was going to form a group, the former Oakland A's legend. And, he was tied to Nashville. And there was this fear that, oh my gosh, the Sox might be moving to Nashville. And there was kind of like the Ishbias were kind of like, well, hey, if the Sox are for sale, we might be interested. But then obviously, Tony La Russa threw a wet blanket on that and confirmed on behalf of his friend Jerry Reinsdorf, that the team was not for sale. Well, the billionaire brothers someday owning the Sox is back in play, though, according to a report from the Athletic's John Greenberg. First, it is painful to give Jerry credit, but man, he pulled off a baller move. He pulled off the epitome of it's not personal, it's just business to get Justin Ishbia to abandon his pursuit of buying the Minnesota Twins. I'll go over that in just a second. Second, despite a column by Sun-Times Rick Morrissey, just because Jerry's not selling does not mean this latest news involving Justin Ishbia offering to buy more of a stake in the franchise does not mean Reinsdorf or his estate will eventually sell majority ownership. And honestly, I used to like Rick Morrissey's writing, but his topics lately, oh my gosh, is he losing his fastball? He's got a column. I'll sum it up. He's got a column on the Sun-Times today, basically saying just because Justin Ishbia is going to buy up more, stake in the Sox doesn't mean Jerry's going to sell. Jerry is spiteful and blah, 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 blah. Okay. What I'm about to share with you guys, it's easy to just connect the dots and get on your jump to conclusions, Matt. And yeah, also John Greenberg put that in his write-up over the weekend that the Sox, Jerry might not be giving up control right now. That was clear, and I'm going to share a quote with that in just a second. But yes, it was reported that Jerry's not selling the team right now. That was confirmed. But it doesn't mean he's not setting up a succession plan, because it's just simple logic. Unless the Twins' finances were in some sort of crazy mess, or the Pullen family, who owns the Twins, was giving signals that, they were actually going to pull the team off the market, which is now in play after Jerry's baller move, it makes no sense for Justin Ishbia, who's also made it clear he would love to own an MLB team, to just give up his bid of being a majority owner of the Twins, just to be a minority owner, especially for the Chicago White Sox. Like, why would you be like, you know what, I could own a team that has a new state-of-the-art facility, relatively new state-of-the-art facility. Granted, it's a small market, but it's still Minneapolis, St. Paul. Yeah, I'm going to give that up because, I just want a better parking spot at Rate Field. One of the few benefits you get as a limited partner of Jerry Reinsdorf. Also, Justin and Matt Ishbia reportedly helped bankroll Jerry's sons, Michael and Jonathan Reinsdorf, buying up more shares from Jerry's limited partners during the pandemic. Those were actually, and too, that's like, I believe the shares were either just outright bought for pennies on the dollar I don't think those guys got, like, the limited partners got diluted. But either way, they bankrolled Jonathan and Michael buying up more of the White Sox on their behalf, for those two behalf, because eventually this team's going to get sold. We've talked, every day, as you've heard me say this, it's been well reported. Jerry has told his sons, his heirs, the rest of the estate. I don't know if he's got daughters. I haven't dived that far into his family tree, but I know, it's reported he's got 2 sons, to sell the team, the White Sox, for sure, after Jerry passes. So the only thing I would say, for example, where Rick Morrissey is right, is I don't see Jerry Reinsdorf giving up his hobby right now, even though I think he's about to turn 89 this week. Because he has said doesn't play golf or bridge like folks in their 80s are stereotyped to do. And he said it, not me. Okay, so I'm not being ageist. He owns a baseball team. Badly, I might add, but that's his hobby. He owns a baseball team and he owns a basketball team. That's what he does. Now that he's 89, he loves baseball, so I don't see him giving it up. So I agree on that end. Is Jerry just going to give up control tomorrow? No. But I do see him helping his sons and his estate line up a buyer because, as Jerry said, he's hinted, he's basically told them, keep the Bulls. No matter how bad the Bulls are, they're still a moneymaker. And it's easier to make money in his view, as he shared, because the NBA has national TV deals that pay really, really well, at least a soft salary cap, and max salaries for short term. These guys are only, these players, yes, they're getting huge dollars now, but it's only 3 or 4 years. When LeBron James gets $250 million, for example, on his extension, it's just for 3 or 4 years. It's not like, signing some of these guys, the really, really good players that are signing now for 250, like Max Fried, he's getting it for 7-8 years, well into his late 30s. So there's at least a better economic structure that obviously Jerry likes. So he's instructed them, sell the White Sox upon his passing. And as I keep saying, it's just sad and uncomfortable. You and I have to hope a man has to die to possibly get better ownership. So all this report is doing, in my opinion, is just leaking out a succession plan and screwing over a division rival. Because that's the biggest thing. Let's start with screwing over the Minnesota Twins. Here's what Greenberg learned. The development shocked the Twins, with some officials believing that their ownership situation might be resolved by opening day. Now they've been left to scramble in their search for a new owner. The news couldn't be worse for Twins fans, who dreamed Ishbia would bring a deep wallet and competitive fire to an organization in need, only to see him stay with a division rival. It was during Ishbia's pursuit of the Twins that the Reinsdorfs came to him and discussed increasing his share of the White Sox, according to a person briefed on the discussions who was not authorized to speak publicly. Baller. That is just talk about, hey, if you don't want to trade Eric Fetty to help a division rival, that's one thing. This is literally seeing billionaires potentially buying and competing with you for divisions, even though the Sox won't be competing for the division for a while, and just saying, you know what? I'm going to torpedo this deal. And here's what the Athletics Twins beat reporter Dan Hayes, who used to cover the White Sox, wrote regarding the Twins' reaction. Several team officials in spring training camp were caught off guard Friday when Ishbia's plans came to light. The Twins process continues to move forward, according to a person with knowledge of the sale details, who said a number of interested parties remain engaged. Some of them have already been vetted. However, the team's current ownership group, the Pullen family, could also pull the team off the market if its price isn't met. Said the source, quote, everything's on the table, end quote. So now, if you're skeptical of Jerry doing this to form a succession plan, or again, we always fall for the banana in the tailpipe, and I get it. We can't have nice things, White Sox fans. But come on, there's smoke here. This isn't just Jerry saying, well, there's 2 billionaire brothers, Justin, who would be the lead owner in this case, whereas in the Phoenix Suns situation, Matt is the controlling owner, about to buy his division rival and make them flush with cash for years to come. So why not do whatever it takes to keep them from cashing out on their Sox state and in turn competing with the Sox, because that's what's going to happen, because they were going to have to cash out their stake in the White Sox because they have a minority stake, as it was reported, and then put that money into the Twins and make them competitive for years to come. Although the Pollens, they've signed multiple players to $100 million deals. Just saying, they can afford it too. But man, I've heard Jerry can be ruthless, but I don't see him and his sons poking these bears who have more billions than Jerry can ever dream of just to get them from not owning the Twins. So I'm going to think that this might be a signal that we can have nice things, White Sox fans. But man, I mean, you do have to give Jerry credit for this. I'm giving him credit for this. And yes, it's very, very painful. But, he just basically saw these billionaire brothers and thinking, well, if you're going to buy the Twins, why don't you just buy a team in Chicago right here? Especially where Justin is building a massive estate. Although John Greenberg, and I'm trying to get him on the show, he was on the Score this morning saying, like, Justin's kind of upsetting the folks of Winnetka, although poor Winnetka, first world problems. But think about that. Justin lives in Chicago, Illinois. That's where he's made his billions. That's where he's got his fund that he runs. He runs it out of Chicago. Also, the White Sox come with a potential new stadium site that I'm sure he could actually finance and work with the developers of the 78 to line his pockets. And in terms of what is actually happening, though, this is what the White Sox did officially comment on when it comes to what Justin Ishbia is doing. Quote, similar to an opportunity in 2021, White Sox limited partners have received an offer from a third party to purchase their shares in the team, providing liquidity for the limited partners on their long-term investment in the club. White Sox Vice President of Communications Scott Reifert said, the offer to limited partners has no impact on the leadership or operations of the Chicago White Sox and does not provide a path to control, end quote. The deal, which is being brokered by Chicago Area Investment Advisors, BDT, and MSD Partners, still need league's approval, according to a source briefed on discussions. But another source said that if Justin Ishbia takes control of the White Sox, he would be the lead and his brother Matt would be an investor, the reverse of the arrangement they have in Phoenix, where they own the NBA's Suns and WNBA's Mercury. White Sox limited partners were recently informed that an investor wanted to buy their shares at a franchise valuation around $1.8 billion. According to people briefed on the discussion who are not authorized to speak publicly, they aren't required to sell, nor will their stakes be diluted by this new investor. The deadline for the decision is next Friday. So that's the other thing. He's just trying to increase his minority stake. And there are a lot of these minority owners. It's been well speculated by a lot of people that are more in the know that they do want to cash out on this asset because Jerry's limited partnership agreement says they cannot borrow against the asset. So, because he doesn't want to be in business with a bank. So a lot of these guys, a lot of these limited partners, all they're getting is a parking pass to the rate field and access to all 30 MLB ballparks. They basically get the all access pass. They can go to any ballpark they want. Great. But if you're a businessman, you might eventually want, and you keep seeing the price go up, you might eventually want to cash out, even if you only got a 5-10% share. That's still a pretty decent penny that you're going to be getting on a $1.8 billion franchise. But if the Ishbias are just buying to increase their minority stake, I don't think they're just doing it to get a good return on their investment once Jerry passes away. This is probably a succession plan. Maybe Jerry is against his sons, and I'm just speculating here, maybe against his sons trying to sell to the Ishbias because maybe, hey, if you leave it to the open market, you might get a better offer. But still, come on. You're not abandoning becoming the controlling owner of the Minnesota Twins to just be infusing some cash whenever Jerry needs it. Now, if the Ishbias buy, they are the ideal owners for a couple reasons. One, they're obviously flush with cash. Justin is estimated to be worth $5.1 billion according to Forbes. Matt is estimated to be worth around $9.4 billion. And while, yes, there's a concern if they'll be great owners, because you should have a little bit of concern, because look at where the Phoenix Suns are right now. They're not even in the play-in game, but they have made big swings to deliver a winner. They went out and got Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. So obviously the commitment is there. Two, they have the philosophy to navigate the dying RSN economic model. They went and put Suns games on an over-the-air station that I believe is actually on cable packages too. Unlike CHSN right now, which is broadcasting to basically an audience of hardly anybody. And this was according to ESPN. Ishbia is a deep-pocketed, and after studying the matter for months, he said, in consulting with the NBA, he decided to forego the larger guaranteed money and enter into a partnership with the local over-the-air stations. He said he sees it as a long-term investment. Sun and Mercury's games could be available to more than 2.8 million households throughout Arizona. His bet is more eyeballs over time will lead to more revenue. And he even said, take care of the fan, and making money will take care of itself. Novel concept. And right now, CHSN is not on Xfinity. Bulls and Blackhawks ratings are way down, so you can imagine what they'll be for a White Sox team coming off a horrifically bad 2024 season. So with Justin actually living in town, the likelihood too, this is number 3, of the team moving probably goes away. I mean, I doubt Justin would move the team to Nashville and still try to do business in Chicago. Obviously, you could still do business with Cubs fans, but still, it makes more sense to share Chicago with the Cubs rather than have a smaller population all to yourself. And especially if you can develop the 78 or even create Comiskeyville around a still perfectly good rate field, there's plenty of ways to make money. So, folks, we finally have an opportunity for better ownership. Well, the White Sox played 2 spring training games, and let's discuss some of the takeaways from the first 2 exhibition games. Let's discuss that next on Locked On White Sox. When the games tip off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. And I always maintain FanDuel's traditional spreads, the money lines, the over the under, and the over-unders. They're fun to play, but if you want to hit big or even triple or double or triple your money, the futures, parlays, and props are the way to go. Plus, the app is easy to use, and if you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to hit the like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, Locked On White Sox is available on all major podcast platforms. So make sure to follow or subscribe on places such as Apple or Spotify. Also, leave a 5-star review if you can. Either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting with me. All right, so the White Sox looked like they were basically in mid-season form over their first 2 spring training games. You had defensive gaffes. You had a pitcher getting rocked twice. And hey, you even had the bullpen blow a lead late. The offense produced just 3 runs in both games, too. And they lost both games. So looking like a team's, it feels like it's July already. Sox lost 7-3 to the Cubs on Saturday, 4-3 to the Royals yesterday. And yes, it's still super early in camp. And really outside of Jared Shuster getting roughed up in the second inning against the Cubs, it wasn't just turn away looking horror bad. It wasn't total clown show. The Cubs hit him hard too. Like that was a lot of loud contact that I saw. But Shuster's also working on, some he's working on his changeup. So I think he's just trying to throw that a little bit more to kind of mix that into his pitch mix. And otherwise, the only other clown show you really had is you did have a defensive gaffe in the second inning where he got roughed up, where there was an errant throw home made by Chase Mydroth, and hey, guess what allowed? The trailing runner to get to second. Sometimes I would really suggest to Will Venable, you got to teach these guys first to hit the cutoff man. Sometimes the cutoff man, unless it is literally going to be the winning run, or obviously you're going to blow the lead, just eat the ball. Surrender the run. Okay? Try to make it up later. Obviously, the offense is terrible. I get it. Their margin for error is slim. But let's start there. Okay? And then, yes, there's still time to work on throwing to the catcher if you need to. But let's just start right there. Cutoff man, eat it. Okay? Because how many times did we see last year, and then it would lead to more runs, the White Sox would throw to home. And the trailing runner, the guy that made the hit, gets the second or gets the third. So just eat it. Oh, and later in the game, Oscar Colas played a fly ball terribly that had hit him in the face. He tried to make a leap and grab at the wall, and it just bam, right in there. It's on X. So otherwise, though, didn't see much of a clown show from what I saw. And again, Will Venable, you got some time to hopefully fix some of these mistakes of the past. But otherwise, there was some encouragement, but a warning sign of potentially being haunted by Jack Caglione, player the Sox could have drafted last year, but instead ended up on the Royals. But first, let's start with the encouraging signs. Luis Robert Jr. went 2 for 3 against the Cubs, so nice to see him start off camp, swinging the ball well. Colson Montgomery had a terrible first at-bat against the Cubs. 3 pitches, 3 swing and misses. Yee. But then he comes back and he launches the team's first home run of spring, and he launched it deep to center. So that was really encouraging to see. Nice bounce back, and again, showing off that power potential. I'll get to Prelander Berroa exiting the game in the next segment, but otherwise, again, wasn't terrible. The major downside, though, I would say, is actually the Sox, who own their RSN, didn't broadcast the game yesterday, nor did the Royals. You could get the Royals radio broadcast, but it did kind of stink to not be able to see a television feed if you have MLB TV, or even, again, if you live in Chicago. Ian Eskridge made a great point on Twitter, or on X, formerly Twitter, at Daily White Sox of Future Sox. Grant Taylor and Edgar Carroll make their ST debuts. Jacob Gonzalez in at shortstop. Would be nice if this was televised. Yeah, you got some of the highly touted prospects getting action. Edgar Carroll, the potential future stud catcher or first baseman, depending on what Kyle Teal, all that stuff. Jacob Gonzalez, former first-round pick. Braden Montgomery, he got in that bat too. Drew a walk. It would have been nice to see these guys live and in person. You'd want to start showing hope. But again, I don't know if there's a programming issue. I don't know if there's licenses that CHSN had. I don't know why they're not broadcasting these games. I just don't get it. And I talked about that on previous episodes. Every day is likely heard. But also, you missed out on a chance to see Grant Taylor toe the rubber and just throw some serious heat. Scott Merkin, I've got the tweets up from MLB White Sox, MLB.com White Sox beat reporter at Scott Merkin. Grant Taylor was just throwing some really, just some impressive stuff. Per StatCast, Grant Taylor averaged 99.5 miles per hour on his 5 four-seam fastballs, topping out at 101.2. And then James Fegan, the Sox Machine beat reporter, he wrote this at JR Fegan. White Sox prospect Grant Taylor said his 101.2 mile per hour fastball today was his first time hitting triple digits in a game. Still, he threw his cutter more than his fastball today. Quote, you start throwing fastball 60% of the time, it stops looking like 100 miles per hour. I mean, first of all, that's impressive for Grant Taylor to basically say that. Like, instead of, I'm just going to throw as hard as I can, start to learn pitching, because he's going to be one of those studs. Like, imagine him along with Norris Schultz and Hagen Smith. That's the future of better days, folks. Also, he pitched a clean frame with a K. And it was also good to see Juan Carla and Peyton Polite. They threw clean frames too. However, Trey Magoo gave up a 3-run blast to Jack Caglione in the 8th. And there's video of that on Twitter and on MLB.com. And talk about hurting the ball. He crushed it where that ball should have pressed charges. I mean, that was a loud, thunderous thud. And it got me thinking, this is the unintended consequences of going with Hagen Smith with the 5th pick. I mean, I get why the White Sox passed on Jack Caglione with the 5th pick. It's not good business to take a first baseman that high. Yes, he was technically a two-way player, so you could have taken a look at him, but still, he's not a very good pitcher. He's definitely much more of a masher first baseman. But it makes more sense, for example, to the Royals to take them because they're likely not picking in the top 10 now for a while. Where the White Sox, especially with an owner who does not pay players once they start to perform very well, or at least long-term, they got to make sure they start, and now that, so then you have to trade a guy like Eric Crochet. They basically have to start replicating and replacing guys like Eric Crochet in Dylan Cease. So that's why I get why it makes sense. But the unintended consequences then is it left Caglione available to the Royals, who now he could potentially, if he, he's going to be in the big leagues at some point, he could be a problem for the White Sox for years to come. Well, speaking of problems, the White Sox could be without Prelander Berroa for a while, who left his first game outing with a grade 1 elbow strain. Let's discuss how that could impact the White Sox bullpen and how Mike Clevenger is not only back, but he's talking about being the closer. Let's discuss that next on Locked On White Sox. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, shout out to all the everydayers. I appreciate your loyalty. Please hit the like button on today's episode and recommend to your fellow Sox fans or baseball fans, friends, to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox, wherever they get their podcasts, as this show is available on all major podcast platforms. I hope you had a great weekend. Mine was pretty low-key. Took my daughter to see Paddington in Peru. Actually, a fun little family movie. So if you're looking for a little family flick, I suggest you check it out. Otherwise, just spend some time with the family. Watched the White Sox versus Cubs spring training game. as much as I could stomach. So hopefully you had a good weekend. Well, the White Sox are down a potential high leverage arm in the bullpen as Prelander Berroa left Saturday's game with what was described by the team as right elbow discomfort. And at first, your heart sank because the righty who posted a 180 ERA in September, once he was actually given a shot to show what he could do, when you get right elbow discomfort, usually that's the first sign that the season's, his season would probably been lost because that's usually the precursor to Tommy John. But Berroa did avoid the worst case situation as he's been diagnosed with a grade 1 elbow strain, according to the team. Course of action, though, is TBD, so it's doubtful he's ready to go by opening day. But hey, Mike Clevenger, by the way, folks, especially the folks that love to respond on the community page, TikTok or Twitter, hey, you want to respond, that's fine, okay? But don't hide behind a screen name if you're going to make some of these takes that I had to read. Okay. You want to make terrible comments defending his past that I clearly disagree with, that I would say the majority of rational human beings would disagree with. Put your name on it. Okay. Don't hide behind your screen name. Put your name on it. Let the world know how you truly feel. If you are so worried about false accusations, even though only 1 in 10 accusations of domestic violence turn out to be false, put your name on it. If you want to say that, well, why didn't, when Mike Clevenger got accused, why didn't the mother of his child file a police report? Put your name on it. Okay? That's why you don't believe her. Because most victims are reluctant to come forward for fear of retaliation, fear of losing financial security, potentially, shame, or in my case, manipulation. Okay? Put your name on it. Say it with your chest, as Herb Lawrence, former host of the show, used to say. Say it with your chest. And yes, according to one sick listener even mentioning that I should get replaced because heaven forbid I disagree with that. Heaven forbid I have a little bit of empathy. Oh, one more thing. This isn't being woke. The bad PR is just one of the major problems with bringing back Clevenger. That the bros, the Clevenger bros and the Bauer bros need to accept 3 times, three, including in season, he was available to the open market, including an in-season time when he was available to the open market. All they had to do was just pay him a salary. Didn't have to give up a prospect. No one wanted him. So I'm tired of hearing, well, it's just a minor league deal. You can flip him at the trade deadline. No, you can't. Unless he pitches like Cy Young out there right now, there is no market. Second, he's going to end up on the injured list at some point. 1 season, one, and I gave you the numbers. I gave it to you. Over 150 innings he's pitched, 2018. But no, I gotta be cool. I gotta own somebody. No, I'm not being woke here. I'm also talking just from a baseball standpoint. This is not a good addition, even on a minor league deal. He's going to be hurt. He's going to end up on the injured list. And none of that. Now you're sending him to the bullpen. And I agree with Sean Anderson, former host of the show, host of CHGO. He's coming off major surgery where he had to have a disc replaced in his neck, and now he's going to be asked to throw harder? Come on. You might as well dust off that IL spat right now. But here he is talking about, well, I was a closer in college. I wonder if he actually thinks he's going to be the closer. That would be, I don't care if you will look at the other options. Yes, I'd rather look at the other options because now that he's going to be hurt. There's no trade value there. I would rather see what Peyton Polite can do. I'd rather see what even Eric Adler can do. I'd rather see what a ton of the other young pitching prospects that they have can do. Juan Carroll. I'd rather see that because they're going to be with the team, hopefully when the team is ready and still in their prime productive years. Mike Clevenger is old. Accept it. Face it. Go forward with your life. But if you're going to go up in to these comments, make comments, put your name on it. Don't hide behind a screen name. Put your name on it. Okay? I put my name on it. Todd Welter, host of Locked On White Sox. Okay? Put your name on it. Anyway, I'm going to calm down. Also, when it comes now, but in terms of contenders for high leverage situations, you lose Berroa. James Karinchak did throw, though, yesterday. His fastball did hit at least 93 miles per hour, but it was still in the 91, 92. He had 3 Ks, which is good because, he can get strikeouts, but he did give up a home run. But hey, the impact is you just lose one arm that can throw hard out of the pen. But this is an opportunity for guys like Juan Carroll and Peyton Polite to make a case for the opening day roster spot, especially since Polite, he can be adding out to the 40-man once Berroa goes on the IL. And this is the one good thing about the Sox pitching depth with their prospects. And even using the scrap heap free agents is they can absorb this loss. This isn't like if, Berroa was a shortstop. The depth is thin there. So you hate to see Berroa lose some time, but hopefully he's back at some point this season. But hey, it's an opportunity for someone to step up, next man up. Hopefully they can protect some leads. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout spring training. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And I'll be back tomorrow to discuss what I wanted to discuss on Friday, but I pushed it back with the Clevenger signing. And then today, because I pushed it back with the weekend news about Justin Ishbia, one day potentially being the majority owner of the Sox, and that is Chris Getz and Will Venable might be the guys to turn things around based on the recent piece in The Athletic. Although that could change too, as I'm in communication with John Greenberg. Him and I are ironing out when he can come on the show. Maybe it's going to be this week. We'll see. Otherwise, hopefully get him on the show next week. Feel free to leave comments about today's discussion regarding Justin Ishbia potentially becoming the Sox next controlling owner, the weekend recap of the first two exhibition games, and Prelander Berroa's injury and the impact on the bullpen. And if you're going to leave comments about Mike Clevenger and supporting him, put your name on it. Don't hide behind a screen name. Anyways, you can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at ToddJW or at Locked On Sox, or email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.